I will call a halt to the public hearing and thank everybody for their thoughtful comments and to the applicant for providing us his information. And Jesse, is it okay to start the business meeting at this point?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So with that, I will now open the March 10th business meeting. And I guess the first thing I would say is we should, I'll call for additions or deletions from the agenda. And I suggest we discuss the process for for deciding on the waiver would be something that we should discuss.
Yep.
And
Are we going to have a privilege of the floor, Mark?
yeah, we are.
I'd like to actually continue our discussion though before we do that, because it's really a continuation and we're sort of in that headspace.
That's fine with me. So let's continue that right now. So.
So where we left off was when would we have a special meeting? Would we have a special meeting? When would that happen?
Right. And so I think I'm hearing two opinions. I'm hearing from a couple of people, board members who would like to vote tonight. And Tim has asked for time to consider the addendum more carefully. I think that's fair. And I really like the idea of just coming, at least discussing this amongst ourselves in a deliberative way and coming up with a really clear, determination on the waiver. So.
And I just want to say, because this is the first time that we've considered an application for a waiver under the moratorium, I think we just need to be patiently deliberative about the conditions of expression of the conditions of hardship, et cetera, required by the waiver, just so that we go through those steps. And I'm not sure that have all those ducks lined up in a row tonight. So I would just like a little bit of time for us to just check the boxes.
You should have that time.
Yeah. So are people comfortable? Let's see. So jumping to my calendar.
Yeah, I would be inclined to suggest maybe we try and do next week. Would a week give you sufficient time, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, I'd just like us to have time. I mean, we have a very full agenda tonight, and I think we need to have time to have a full discussion about this.
So the other alternative would be to do it at our April 6th agenda meeting, which is within 30 days.
I think that's.
I feel like we should move. I do too. I feel like we can move faster on this.
Yeah.
And I'd like to.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Would Tuesday the 16th work for folks?
We'll make it work.
Yep, good for me.
Okay. Offer resolution to schedule a special board meeting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 16th.
Second.
Seconded by Catherine. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Okay. So. Great, thank you.
Mhm.
So the point, I guess, is that meeting going to be public as well?
Yes,
Yes.
Like with-
Mhm.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so
Absolutely.
check in next week and we'll
definitely.
be there for the deliberation. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, it's a public meeting. Yep. Great. Okay, thanks, everybody. So now I will open the meeting, the business meeting for privilege of the floor, if anybody wishes to address the board. Please raise your blue Zoom hand.
Bill had his hand up.
Great.
And Bill Podolka is up first and our only hand at the moment.
And I'll just, thanks, Cal, for nothing. All I was going to do actually is address privilege of the floor to encourage you guys to hold a special meeting to hear the waiver, to vote on the waiver soon, like next week. And since you did that, I don't have to say anything. So good job.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye, Bill.
See you tomorrow night, Bill.
Okay. With that, I will open the business meeting and with a presentation from Nancy and or Karen on the Joint Youth Commission. And I think they're going to need to be co-hosted. There's Karen.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, they are going to need to be co-hosted. Mark.
Yeah, she moved around quickly on my.
And they're still jumping around the screen.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. We are, Karen Scott and I are the representatives for the town of Caroline to the Joint Youth Commission. And John Freisha is your town board liaison to that commission. And tonight we're going to share a bit about what we do and be available to answer questions. We will have some follow-up materials to be sending out to the board afterwards. But we'd like to start off, first of all, with a video presentation. John, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Give me just a moment.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Dean, and I am the Youth and Community Programs Manager at the Cottington Road Community Center. Our counselor and training program provides area youth, including those from the town of Caroline, with a positive first-time employment experience. Through workshops and guest speakers, participants receive training on resume development, successful interview tips, professionalism in the workplace, child supervision, workplace communication, and much more. Participants spend the summer engaging in these trainings as well as shadowing seasoned counselors. Many of our CITs later return to Cottington as a counselor or a substitute in our year-round program. Thank you.
Hey, can you hold up some of those pieces of ice you're finding? Whoa! That is awesome.
Wait a minute.
It's
There's
like,
one of you that I want to get before you take a picture.
oh, that's awesome. Cool.
Funds from the Joint Youth Commission support Youth Employment Service, which is a program of the Ithaca Youth Bureau. Our mission is to empower teens to grow into flourishing adults, and we provide teens with subsidized work experiences for first-time workers, as well as work readiness, skill building, and training.
Hi, my name is Megan Dushko, and I am the JYC coordinator at the Learning Web. We provide career exploration services for teens, including, but not limited to, virtual and in-person job tours, apprenticeships, and volunteer community service programs.
And there's
All
our,
right.
yep. Did you want to go ahead, Nancy, or do you want me to start in?
No, I was just going to introduce you. Take it away, Karen.
Sorry, Nancy. Thanks so much. I just wanted to thank everybody for being a part of this part of the meeting tonight. And then also to the board members for all your support with the Joint Youth Commission and then also other youth programs. So that was a little video that we created. And now I'll just do a slideshow presentation. So I'll end up sharing my screen with you. Oops. And some of these slides, I will go over more briefly than others, and then others I'll be more detailed with. And then at the very end, like Nancy mentioned earlier, you'll have plenty of time to ask any questions if you have any. So again, as Nancy mentioned, we're part of the Joint Youth Commission, and you have two people who represent the town of Caroline, and it's Nancy and then myself. And the liaison from the town board is John Freisha. As far as the Joint Youth Commission, it was officially created in 1991, and the membership was originally the town of Ithaca, Village of Cayuga Heights, and Village of Lansing. And then in 2014, the town of Caroline joined. So most of the youth are in middle and high school, but we do offer programs at Caroline Elementary School for the elementary age students as well. The Joint Youth Commission has 10 members in total, and we usually meet at the Town of Ithaca Town Hall, and that's every second Tuesday from 7 to 8:30. So our most recent meeting was yesterday, but ever since everything happened with COVID, we've just been meeting virtually. And then the last bullet point is important. We have two priorities for programs and services, and that's first-time employment, employment training, career exploration, apprenticeships, and then also youth development and life skills. So as you see this pyramid here, in looking for costs for funding for youth services, the bottom is the biggest, broadest, and least expensive, and that's recreation programs. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what's going on.
I think someone Zoom bombed us and I just booted them.
Oh, I thought that was part of the
I
presentation.
wasn't sure if it was one of my kids or something was happening, I don't know. But the second tier then of the pyramid is youth development, and that's where the Joint Youth Commission comes in. And it's any planned and organized activity whose primary purpose is to promote and provide opportunities for youth to gain important life skills that prepare them for the independence and responsibilities of being productive citizens. So again, we're focusing on basic life skills, apprenticeships, different work employment opportunities, and also for the youth to be a part of the community and have pride and a sense of ownership in doing that. The research is clear. Young people who live in communities that are rich in developmental opportunities experience less risk and show evidence of higher rates of positive development. Also, a diversity of program opportunities in each community is more likely to support broad adolescent development and attract the interest of and meet the needs of a greater number of youth. So the youth service system was created in 1998 by the county legislator, and that was to provide funds to all local communities with the intention of supporting programming that meets locally identified youth development needs. So essentially, the youth service system, the youth development services, is here to support the Joint Youth Commission. And there's three different main funding sources. The first is local municipalities, for example, the town of Caroline, the village of Lansing, the village of Cayuga Heights, and also the town of Ithaca. Also New York State, and they give a flat amount to the Tompkins County Youth Services Department. And lastly is Tompkins County, who also allocates funds that are private and then also public funds. Now the landscape of our society has changed. If you think about home lives, there's a lot of single parent households, or there's also parent households with both a father and a mother or both parents present, but in many cases they're both working, so they're not around as often as they may like to be. School is different now. School is offered in a number of different ways, whether it's in school and actually physically attending the school itself, virtually, or also hybrid. And then you also have people who are homeschooling at home. So the pandemic has led to many different changes at schools, also in our family life, and then also too with youth programs. And particularly for youth in the town of Caroline, one of the concerns has always been transportation, because many of the activities are held downtown in Ithaca. And so the parents would need to bring the student downtown and then also drive them back home. So there's different recommendations. So communities should provide an array of program opportunities that are diverse. Particular focus should also be placed on disadvantaged or underserved youth. Programs should be monitored. Resources should be provided by public and private funders. And so these are different recommendations that we have for the local area. And these are also things that the Joint Youth Commission also tried to meet and also keep as a center of focus. So the current JYC programs, there's 5 of them total. And this is the slide that I wanted to go more into detail with, because these were the programs that you ended up seeing on the video. So when we end up having representatives come to report to us as a committee, they come about several times per year. And they tell us what's going on with their program, how many youth they've actually serviced, what things they're trying to improve, and just an overall summary of how things have been going. So the first program is the Youth Employment Service, and that's also called the YES, and that's for first-time youth employment and summer jobs. And this can be for any student who's 14 years or older. And this is a way that they can end up working for a local establishment. And it's something that YES might already be affiliated with, or also if they have a program that they're very interested in, they can always have Beverly, who is the representative, reach out to see if they might be able to receive a job there. And the youth are paid well, they're paid minimum wage, so that's $12.50 an hour. And they also learn life skills. So they learn the basic skills of the job, and then they also learn to keep their time charts, they learn customer service, they're working directly with the manager. And then they also have an individual from YES come and check in on them and have meetings and just see how everything's going. So with the hope of that is that the student ends up seeing if they really like that job, if it's definitely interesting to them, and if they did a good job, and if the company actually needs them further, then they can end up being hired to work then full-time or part-time, or whatever amount of time is best for the business and the youth after their service is over. And for example, that's what happened at Brookton's Market. We had a teen from Ithaca High School come and work for us for the summer during YES, and then she ended up staying and she did a great job and she's still there right now. So it's been a great experience for her and also a great experience for the business as well. The Learning Web is the second program, and that's more for apprenticeships. And they have a bunch of different topics that the students can choose from, between arts and communication, business management, marketing, technology, health services. There's engineering, manufacturing, industrial technology, human services, and science and agriculture. So again, they have a lot of connections that they already have with local businesses and companies. And then also if one of the students has a particular interest in another program that's not affiliated, they can reach out to them and have the student do an apprenticeship there. So that's been very successful and has had a lot of rave reviews from that. The third is the Cooperative Extension Rural Youth Services. And that's the main person for that. The contact person is Beth Bannister, and that's affiliated with Cornell Cooperative Extension. And something that's nice about this program in particular is that they do try to reach out particularly to Caroline. They have a lot of different programs at Caroline Elementary School, and they also have programs at the Brooktondale Community Center. So this has a lot of younger kids involved, and then also the students don't have to drive downtown to go to the program. It's right here locally in the town of Caroline. And so some of the programs that Beth has hosted, and she's always open to new programs, and she changes things up all the time depending on what the youth are interested in, are, for example, bird watching, board games, outdoor activities, cooking clubs, and then there's also been a summer overnight hiking trip. And so these programs are all still going on right now, and everybody's just mindful of COVID with their masks on and socially distanced. The next program is the Coddington Road Community School and Summer Camp. And so there's two different parts of this program. There's the youth in training, and they're more 14 to 15-year-olds. So they're kind of just getting a taste of their first time job, kind of finding out exactly what's going on. And then there's more seasoned camp counselors where they're given more responsibility and they have more experience. And they've already been a part of the program typically before. So they actually had this last summer where a lot of different summer camps were not operating. So this was a huge blessing to a lot of the local family members and also to the youth who were able to work there. I went there in person and I saw what was going on with the camp. They had people, when they originally came, they took their temperature, they asked them COVID questions, and then they would go to their cohort groups or their little pods, and they would stay with certain students throughout the whole entire time. So they were very professional. They sanitized constantly, and they were very mindful of all the COVID protocol. And again, it was such a blessing that they had this available last summer when a lot of programs were not being offered. And something that's new this year is called the Youth Entrepreneurship Market, which also goes by YEM. And this is also available from elementary school age, which is 5th graders, all the way up through seniors in high school. And so YEM is the last part that you saw with the video. It's students who have a goal in mind. They have a business project, they have a plan, they have a company, and then they learn how to advertise. They learn how to fund, they focus on financing, everything that needs to be involved in the business. And this year in particular, they're focusing on how they can end up advertising online and do a lot of things virtually. So YEM again is something that's brand new to the Joint Youth Commission, and we're so glad that they're able to be a part of it. And with these programs, they are all doing the best that they can to reach out to the youth of all different ages. They have multiple flyers, emails, word of mouth. There's typically advertising in the Old Mill, which is our local paper. And then they also would set up tables at school. Some programs are not able to do this anymore because of the pandemic, but this was very popular. And again, they're just doing as much as they can to reach as many students as possible, but also being mindful of everything going on with the pandemic. And those were all the main slides that I had. And if anybody has any questions for Nancy and I, we'd love to answer them for you.
Thank you, Karen.
I want to point out for the sharp-eyed amongst you, or those that weren't, in the very last shot of the video, you may have noticed there were 2 cute kids giving us the thumbs up. And if you look to the right of them, you may have noticed one Karen Scott there. And those are 2 of her kids participating in YEM, which I thought was really cool.
It was also taken by the photograph of the handsome guy in the tie.
I must have missed that guy. Was that you, Tim? Or you?
Great. Well, thank you so much. Any questions for Karen or Nancy?
Hey, this is a fabulous presentation.
Yeah.
And it's so great to see the extent of opportunities being provided to our local kids. And I mean, I think you should continue to be in touch with us if you need more resources.
Yeah.
Which I certainly would be open to contemplating.
So
Thank you.
So if a child wants to do any of these things, is it competitive? Is it wide open?
As far as I know, it's wide open. A good place to start would be on the Facebook page, which is the Joint Youth Commission. I think it was in the slideshow presentation. We've also been sending out some messages over the Caroline, the group, I'm trying to think of the name, the distribution list that goes across the emails. And also there was something from the town clerk about one of the programs that's being offered as well. And in the Old Mill. So people can either contact the organizations themselves directly, or they can turn to us and we'll be happy to get them in touch with them.
Okay. I was just wondering about, so if someone wanted to do an internship, I would think those could be limited or whatever, but.
I believe they are limited. It's best to get in early, but they are service agencies and will do their best to accommodate
so
people who are
exciting.
interested.
Great.
Okay.
Yes, and I haven't heard of anybody being turned down. If anything, with an internship, it might be limited to how many students would be able to participate to that specific business, but then they would just have to choose a different business instead. And the programs too are offered for free, or if people are able to pay a nominal charge, they can do that as well. But this is offered for free, which is a great resource as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
in
it-
terms of the internships and the things that are done through Yes, Everstokes was telling us yesterday that they have relaxed a little bit of the requirements to make it possible for people who can't travel or who can't participate in person directly due to COVID. There have been some adjustments made.
Great.
I'll just add 2 cents to that, which is to say in my time being liaison to JYC, I've watched the organizations work really, really hard to continue to develop new relationships with businesses in the community, with actually a particular interest in continuing to build that in Caroline, which I'm very happy about. And I think Brookton's Market is a great example of a success story there.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Well, thank you so much. So that's awesome. That's great.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing us this great presentation, and yeah, much appreciated. All right. So let's move on. The next agenda item is interviews for the town's zoning commission. And so what we're going to do is move the applicants into the waiting room. And so let's see. And so the idea was that we would have the applicants in the waiting room and then interview each of them individually. And so I'm searching through, let's see, I thought I saw, there's Evie. And where's iPhone? There he is. And I don't know if, is John Carson here? Perhaps or not. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and start the interviews, and I just because I couldn't think of anything more creative, I figured I'd do it alphabetically. And so I will admit Ernie Bales, who has applied.
Mark, do we know who 714 phone number is?
I don't know. Let's see if we can get that person to.
Somebody just let me in.
Yes, Ernie, I just let you in. So I have you first on our interview list because I'm doing it alphabetically.
Okay.
We're trying to identify one number here before we go forward to make sure we, let's see, hang on a second. Well, I sent them a chat. I'm not getting a reply, so I don't know. I think we should just go ahead with the interviews at this point.
Mark, I just Googled the number.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually, and I don't know how this is happening, but it's actually the link to our meeting in Zoom.
Oh, okay. So just, okay.
Or yeah, I think that's what we're looking at here, but I don't know why it's showing up quite that way.
Okay. Okay. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
So great. So Ernie, thanks for joining us and submitting your application for the zoning commission. So we have a few questions. So I'll just fire the first one. What do you see as the purpose of the zoning commission?
Well, I mean, I think that the purpose is kind of a statutory thing as much as anything else. You know, the state requires that a zoning commission be formed before before zoning can be enacted, correct? I mean, that's kind of what it's about. And I presume that the task before the zoning commission is to formulate the zoning regulation, whatever it should be. And so I think that I understand that there is a component of public hearing and public education, I guess, about you know, different possibilities for these regulations. And so I think that acting on the commission, you're kind of taking on a role in the community of you know, kind of trying to enact the best, or at least direct the drafting of the best possible ordinance to further the recommendations, I guess, of the comprehensive plan, and do it in such a manner that, you know, engage the community so that in the end, you know, people largely support it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Why are you interested in serving on the zoning commission?
It's, I guess, I feel it's a civic duty. I really, I can't say I'm excited about this. I was part of the town of Caroline's first subdivision review legislation, and drafting that and going through the process of you know, eliciting public comment and public hearings, and you know, pulling together that initial document. And I guess, you know, that's what, 20 years ago now. Seemed like it wasn't that long ago, but it's not a lot of fun. It's a fair amount of hard work. You don't get much out of it, but you know, at the same time, you know, I've been in this business of, you know, kind of you know, being at the other end of you know, standing in front of a zoning board and pleading my clients' cases, and you know, kind of understand how these laws kind of work and how they don't work, and you know, figure that of, you know, many people that might be able to help with this endeavor, I have a little background that might be useful. Maybe yes, maybe no. I could just be a real pain in the butt. I mean, it's so possible. But no, I was in a zoning hearing last night, and it was just, you know, just so painful, because it's really just the law was just kind of poorly crafted, and everybody knew it needed to be redone, and everybody's kind of apologetic about it, but they're still just kind of stumbling through the process, and it's so frustrating. And one of my concerns as a citizen is that this will put a burden on the bureaucracy of the town. And here you are in a zoning meeting, you got 5 board members, you got a lawyer, you got the clerk, you got all these people there, and for what was really a pretty trivial matter, and it's just is bothersome. And not that I'm going to correct that all by my lonesome. But, I just think that there are some things that maybe we can simplify, avoid, and make better somehow.
Great, thank you. Do you have any thoughts or reactions to share about the town's recent updated comprehensive plan?
Not really. I mean, the comprehensive plan is not, it's not terribly specific in any way. It talks about these kind of community values, and that how we want to maintain the open space, and blah 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 blah. I can't say that there's anything specific that kind of comes to mind as something that zoning is necessarily going to solve or encourage or make better somehow. I think zoning largely does something similar to what the seeker process does. It just kind of slows everything up so that everybody has a chance to take a good look at it, comment freely, and let the dust settle where it may, rather than just kind of having things kind of spilling out there without any kind of oversight. So I think that it's as my understanding is that zoning is the recommendation of the committee that was kind of looking into how we implement the comprehensive plan. I'm not quite up to speed on how that all kind of came together, but it seems like it's now kind of been decided that, well, this is what we're going to do, and so now we have to decide how we're going to do it.
Okay. Great, thank you. Interesting. I guess to follow up on that, do you see zoning, I mean, what do you see as what distinguishes zoning from other things a town might employ for development? Regulation?
I need to get up to speed on all of this, but it seems zoning usually involves drawing lines of some sort, and drawing lines is a very difficult thing because everything is so nuanced. It's very, very difficult to say that this is going to be where we're going to build churches, hospitals, and museums, and this is where we're going to build multifamily housing and this and that, and just say, okay, that's the plan, let's move forward. I think that most of the time is what's going to happen is that zoning is going to come in and kind of try to look at the patterns of development that are extant and then draw lines accordingly, and so it doesn't really end up kind of directing anything in a very thoughtful way necessarily. It just kind of establishes what the status quo is and then says, okay, going forward, we're going to evaluate everything against the status quo. I think the other thing that zoning often does, it seems, in my experience, has been to kind of segregate building types and along with the people that use them into particular areas. I think that it's pretty common that the multifamily zoned areas of a municipality are the poorest of the areas in the municipality, and the least well served by their governments. So I have some kind of personal feelings about that just sometimes wonder. And then there's just so many different types of zoning. There's form zoning, there's use zoning, there's zoning for, can be, I guess the city of Paris has 4 zones, and they're like natural, industrial, and 2 other things, which, and that's it, and somehow we have a beautiful city. And there are reasons that happens, but the typical New York State zoning ordinance is 60 pages of very precise. Your building shall be from lot line 30 feet from that lot line, and this and that, and so is that helpful or useful or even needed in our community? I don't know. I think that's the discussion that the zoning commission takes on and tries to come up with the best possible answer for what they understand as the community's wants and needs.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Couple more questions.
Mark, maybe we should, I think we've gotten a lot of information and we
Yeah,
have
okay.
many more people, so maybe we should
I agree.
roll over.
Curtail it a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll just tell you, yeah, I think you addressed the substantive things that we were wondering about, and so just had a couple more lined up about process. But anyway, and so so we're gonna interview everyone tonight. As I think I mentioned by email, we'll interview everyone tonight and then deliberate on it, and I'll be in touch with you shortly to let you know about our.
I do want to point out one thing. I know that the fuse on this is kind of short, and I am going to be gone for about a month to 6 weeks in July and August.
Okay.
So if that is a problem, I just want to leave that up front. Otherwise, I'm here at home, just like everybody else.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting us know. So nice talking with you. Thanks, Ernie.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Have
Yeah.
fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to boot you back in, or somebody will. So into the waiting room.
Yeah.
Somebody, yeah,
Are you getting the next person, Mark, or do you want me to grab?
yeah. Well, let's see. The next person should be Jean McFeeters. Do you want to let her in there, Catherine?
Yeah, let's see.
And I guess.
Here she is. Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Hey, Jane.
Hi, Jean.
Hello.
Great.
Hey,
Thanks
everyone.
for
Hi.
joining us. Thanks for waiting. We've got a full docket tonight. So anyway, thank you for applying for our zoning commission. And I have we have some prepared questions. So I guess the first one is just, what do you see as the purpose of the zoning commission?
Well, to come up with a plan that can be brought back to the board and to come up with, spend its time considering what would make sense for a town like Caroline, how complicated this has to be or not complicated, and really what are the goals of zoning in our community that we can fulfill through a plan without causing insane reaction.
Okay, great. Thank you. And why are you interested in serving on the zoning commission?
Well, I remember a long time ago when there was the desire to do a comprehensive plan, and this is, I don't know, maybe in the 80s, and I can remember going to that the meeting, and what I recollect is very few people read the comprehensive plan, but they were very good at rolling it into a tube and gesticulating with it. And even though I thought the plan very clearly said that we think Caroline should be the kind of place that Caroline is, where you can live in a small house on a large piece of land, or a large house on a small piece of land, or have a mobile home. And yet people kind of read into that means you can't live in a small house on a small piece of land. It was, there was just a lot of anxiety and angst about the concept of zoning or even a comprehensive plan. And I don't think it has to be that way. I guess I'm interested because, for years I worked for the Chamber of Commerce, and I saw how frustrating it was for businesses who wanted to locate somewhere and create a business when it was completely unclear what the rules were. And for somebody coming from a place like California or any place in the West, where the counties are very large and often there are statewide rules, the concept that you could have an address that was Ithaca and not be in the city of Ithaca or in the town of Ithaca, but you could be in any one of, 9 municipalities, was enormously frustrating. I also served on the IDA, that was also extremely frustrating for people, because people would come into the meeting and it was pretty much the questions like when did you stop beating your spouse? They did not greet people with even civility. And I found it very difficult, because people who want to build something and want to develop something just want to know what the rules are. And once they know what the rules are, they will try to adhere to those rules, I think. But there's no need to berate them. And there are real needs for rules. Things like public safety, water quality, neighborliness. There are good reasons for some rules. And I think the smaller the number and the easier they are to understand, the better.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Do you have any thoughts or reactions to the comprehensive plan or the task force report that was generated?
I read about half of it today in detail, and then I also went and looked at the town of Ulysses, their zoning ordinance and plan and map. And I very much like the town of Ulysses plan. It leaves a tremendous amount of the town in kind of the rural zone, and then has much more specific rules for development zones and for business districts. And they have the issue of having a lake frontage, which we do not have. Though, with water rising, one never knows. So could happen. So what I liked about the comprehensive plan is, I guess my reaction to it is that I thought it was thoughtful. I think it because of the rules from the state about what comprehensive plans have to be. It's not simple and easy to read, because it has verbiage that's required by state standards. But I think it talks about the kind of Caroline that we want to have. So I thought it was good in that way.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And you feel like you have time to devote to this kind of work?
Yes, I'm happy to say I've been the co-chair of the United Way campaign, and I'm delighted to say we met goal. Yay! However, I would like to bring in another 10%. But that was, a joy. My business at this point takes about 10 to 15 hours of time, and the less time I have in my hands to create mischief is a good thing.
Great. Okay, good. Thank you, Jean, very much.
You're very welcome.
And as I mentioned, we'll be getting back to you shortly on our decisions on appointments. So.
Okay, I hear it's very well paid.
That's the right place.
I count your taxes might go up.
Yeah, the positions are very
Okay.
competitive. Yeah.
I figured. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to
Thanks.
you all.
Nice
Bye-bye.
to talk to you, Jean. Thanks. Okay,
Thank you.
great. Bruce is up next, Mr. iPhone. Great. Bruce, you there?
Can you hear me?
Got you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Great. Great. Welcome and thank you for applying for the Zoning Commission. And I have some prepared questions. I'll just start off. What do you see as the purpose of the Zoning Commission?
Purpose would be to try to figure out exactly what direction the town really wants to head as far as zoning goes, and to decide how to, if it does go, exactly what type of zoning we're going to decide to use. I would think that whoever the professional is that we have help us out is going to help steer us in that direction. And also, I'm sure we will have to consult with our attorney to know just exactly what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And also how to divide, if we do go full-fledged zoning, how do we divide up what zones are and where? And that's going to be, I think, a tough decision, because, zoning directly impacts the use of private property. So, it's going to be a hard thing to figure out. But I think with a professional planner and help of the lawyer and everybody's heads together, we can come up with what we should or shouldn't do. And I believe, with some open meetings with the town, that we'll know exactly what we should be doing. So.
Great, thank you. I guess to follow up on that, do you imagine that, zoning has, you sound very guarded about the utility of zoning. And I can understand that, I can understand that. Do you see that there's are benefits to zoning?
I'm sure there are some benefits to it. I'm pretty open to that fact, but there is a big question as to, there's a lot of people who, don't fully understand how this is going to affect them. Say, for instance, all of a sudden I'm zoned commercially. What's that going to do for me and my taxes? Or if I'm zoned agriculturally and now I can't develop a piece of property that I had planned on developing. You know what I mean? There's going to be, everybody knows it's a very contentious word in this town. I'm open to it, but I like to make sure that it's done according to what, the town, the citizens will want to have done. And I want to be able to, with the professional planner and the lawyer, be able to weigh the facts as to what's the best fit for the town of Caroline and the pros and cons. I believe there are both, but I'm not sure if one outweighs the other at this point in time. We have handled a lot of things in the past. I know there's certain specific things that happen in this town. Just say, for instance, like trash or bad stuff developed. Is zoning actually really going to help us with that problem? I don't think so, but it could. There are many different, I'm sure it will help as far as to where we want to develop and where we don't want to develop and what type of development we want to happen in certain areas. That's the big plus. But like I said, it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people in this town.
Mhm.
I'm open, but I want to make sure that we clarify that so that when this is presented, it's not a big fight.
Mhm. Great, thank you. So you've kind of maybe answered this next question, but I'll throw it up there and you can embellish it or whatever, but want to elaborate on your particular interest and what you would bring to the zoning commission, and your interest in serving on that body?
My main interest is just to make sure that, that it's the right insight for the town, the townspeople, it's what they want. And it is a very inclusive process with the town citizens.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that it's really upfront and people realize and understand what's going on, and that it's not, in reading the zoning, the first time zoning pamphlet here, the big one, it's not something it's not going to be a real quick thing. There's a lot of hard facts in here and a lot of hard work that's going to have to be done. I think I can help out with that. I believe with the help of the professional planner and the town's lawyer, and with some input from everybody else, that I could be of a big asset, because I've been in this town forever. I have a lot of feelings and know how a lot of people feel.
Mhm.
I've tried to steer people, like for solar, for instance. A lot of people in this town didn't want it. Nobody, I know a lot of farmers and people who are totally against it. But when you stand there and start talking to them about it and explain benefits of these things and how it's going to help, and it's really not going to hinder what you're doing, then they start to understand and listen. And we lack a lot of that right now, just because of the pandemic. So I believe that, that's part of the thing that I can bring to this. And I'm hoping that I can bring more than that, but I'm open to do everything I need to do. And I know it's not going to be a short road just by reading through this first time zoning pamphlet. There's going to be substantial amount of work to be done.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. So next question, do you have any reactions or thoughts about the comprehensive plan and or the task force report?
Not really. I would have to read the task report again. It's been a while since I read that. The comprehensive plan is pretty much right along the lines of what it was when I was on the planning board. There's a few things that are newer. It has picked up on the direction the town wants to go. It's, reiterated a lot of what was already there, and trying to keep this town headed in the right direction and for what the citizens want. I think it's a good, plan. And like I said, I would have to go over the report again. I read it once, but it was a while back. There was quite a bit of stuff in there that I understood. Like I said, some of the zoning, I had a little bit of a problem, just because when you're looking at just a small number of people versus, like a public hearing or something where you're going to get more involvement and more people's ideas, that it would help out.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Great. Okay. Thanks, Bruce. And you feel like you have time for this? I appreciate that you mentioned it's going to be a lot of work. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, as long, if I feel that, like I said, I'm hoping, I'm sure that I can put in time. It's just a matter of like how soon it's going to be done, this type of thing. I know there's a few instances I'm going to be gone for a little while in the end of this month, but I don't anticipate being gone for more than a week and a half. And then I will be around, I'll be gone again in November for a week and a half, but I'm not gone for.
Great. You cut out on me there, but I think I got it. So you're mostly available, so that's great.
Right.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Bruce. We'll be getting back to you on our decision very shortly, and I appreciate you stepping up.
Now, is this gonna be open for a while for applicants, or?
The way we're looking for, we're filling 4 seats. And so as soon as we fill those 4 seats, then it'll be complete. And it's not a 4-member commission, as you know.
Right.
There'll also be members of the planning board as well. So.
Right. Okay.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah. All right. Evie, you're finally here.
Poor Evie.
Evie, sorry. I feel your pain as a Whitmer, and so you've suffered by being a Weinstein from the alphabetical.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what was going on. You just disappeared, and I was like, okay, what's happening?
Sorry, yeah, so.
Okay.
So welcome and thank you for applying for the town's zoning commission. I have some questions we've prepared, and so I'll just fire right off by, what do you see as the purpose of the zoning commission?
Well, I think let's see, I moved to Brookendale in 1988. And since 1988, there have been conversations over the years about zoning in one way or another. And it has totally depended on who the conversationalists were and whether or not it got heated or didn't get heated. People have strong opinions. But the need for some kind of a forum that allows voices to be heard and different opinions makes it pretty obvious to me that something like a zoning commission is a great idea, which is why when I heard that was about to happen, that made sense to me, other than the kinds of conversations that have been held over the last few decades. So my hope is that this commission will be to provide points of view, to be a forum for different points of view to be brought together. And, my favorite thing in the world is to sit with a room full of people who think differently than I do, because it guides my own thinking in ways that I wasn't prepared for. That was a long answer. I hope it was not too long. So that's what I'm thinking about as the purpose of the zoning.
Okay. So that makes sense. Thank you. Why are you interested in serving in that capacity?
I live here. I have a very vested stake in the way this community looks and grows and evolves from this point on, from all the points in the past on. And each one of those points made changes that for the most part have been really good. But I can see where some of the challenges to people's ideas of what community and home looks like needs to be done in a careful way. And so again, coming back to your first question, this is hopefully a forum where we can be mindful and thoughtful and hear the ideas of others and really do what in our little way the founding fathers did when they put the Constitution together. So hopefully we'll be wise enough and open enough to hear what people want for the future and consider what we all want to make this town stay appealing. And I kind of want to put that in quotes because that's going to change depending on who's talking. Sorry, I've been in a welding room for the last 3 hours and I'm a little filled with metal stuff. Anyway.
Great. Okay, good. Thank you. Do you have any thoughts or reactions to the comprehensive plan and or the task force report?
I am going to be completely transparent and say I need to study that much better than I have thus far. I have been full-time doing contact tracing and then taking this class. And I have not had a chance to go through it in the fine tooth comb kind of reading that I would want to say. So I'm thrilled that after so long, that kind of plan came into play. We've seen the need for a comprehensive plan for many years. So I'm really happy that that was done, and my hats go off to all of those of you. I'm not sure who was involved in it, but so that's something I want to spend more time thinking about and reading and digging in the weeds too.
Sure. Great. Okay. Thank you. You feel like you have time to devote to this project, which will probably be fairly intense. We could imagine the zoning commission meeting every 2 weeks or something. So, and as
Well, good, you answered one of my questions, because that was a question. So meeting every 2 weeks, I'm surprised to hear it's not more often.
Okay.
Although that might make people crazy, but
Well,
you know.
Let me just clarify that, you know, we are right now going through the process of creating this thing called the Zoning Commission. We're going to get a planner on board to help with the work. But once the Zoning Commission is created, then it's its own body, and it will be, you know, it'll be charting its course. And but I do expect that that there's going to be a need for a steady pace of work, whatever. And so if the zoning commission decided we're going to meet weekly to keep things on pace, that would certainly be up to them and acceptable.
Do you see this commission being a kicking off group, or something that is a maintenance oriented group for years, months, years, whatever?
Oh, okay. So I will clarify, this is a temporary body only.
Okay.
So, and any town that's considering zoning for the first time, this is what they have to do: form a zoning commission and do the things that you mentioned in the beginning. Ears to the public, and a deliberative process, and thoughtful looking at conditions in the town, evaluating conditions, thinking about how the town wants to grow, and then drafting a plan to present to the first. The idea would be to draft the first zoning regulations for the town of Caroline, and in a way that are appropriate for Caroline. So that's the challenge. And once that's done, it's done with public hearings and public input. But once it's done, the zoning commission evaporates. It dissolves. So
Okay.
it isn't. It's not going to become like the Board of Zoning Appeals or anything like that. It goes away. And
Do you have any? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think I'm going to answer your question, but our estimate was 6 to 9 months for the process, but it could be double that. For
Most
all I
things
know.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a strong interest in having a voice here, and whether, I mean, you know, whether it's the zoning commission, which sounds very appealing in terms of my interests and my skill sets, I would say, or in some other way to serve the town's needs to keep the character in whatever form the group believes that looks like. And I'm sorry for being vague, but until people really get a better sense, I think, and maybe that's what this group's primary mission is. Although I think anybody individually would have a sense of what the town is, because we live here. Having lived here for a long time, I certainly have that sense. But to answer your question about time commitments, once I get involved with something, don't really walk away from it until it's done. So my personal life these days is I'm doing contact tracing. I'm doing it on a part-time basis. And baking a lot of cookies. So, and we're doing some renovations at my house too. So I'm not anticipating leaving a lot, occasional trips to see family when that is doable. So time commitment wise, I don't see that being a problem.
Wonderful. Great. Okay. Thanks so much, Evie.
You're very welcome.
So,
Sorry you had to wait so long.
yeah.
That's quite all right. Like I said, I was at a welding class, so I was very hungry. I managed to do a little grazing while you guys were doing your other interviews. So I appreciate the time for that.
I agree during these meetings as well.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of how many people will be on this commission?
Yes, the commission will be 4 members at large or from the public, and then the other members will be from the planning board.
Okay.
And so it may be 7 members or 7 to 9 in that range, but
And you said there was is it okay to ask some questions now?
yeah, please.
Okay. You said that there would be a planner
Yes.
who would be hired by the town?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Any thought given already to where to find such a person?
Well, we've drafted a request for applicants, and I've been in touch with several local planners who have networks and would
Great.
put them out through their networks. If you have a suggestion for a good planner, then I'm all ears, or email or whatever. So
thoughts not specific to individual people, but certainly for people who know people in that field. But you probably have as many or more connections, excuse me, than I do. I'd be happy to pass along what I have. But
okay, sure.
so I was wondering, do you have a sense of how soon that would happen? So there would be someone in place?
As soon as possible. So so we'll probably put the RFP out, very soon and try to get someone in place, because I think that kind of support for the group is going to be essential.
Right. Do you know Joanne Cornish?
Oh, yeah.
I know the name, but I don't know who she is.
She's head of city planning in Ithaca. She likes to say her great fame is her son, who owns Gola restaurant, Gola Osteria. But
I thought her great fame was her daughter, who works with me.
Oh, there you go. That's even better.
I can just say, Evie, the task force that met all fall, we also had a planner that we engaged, and so we have become comfortable with that procedure, and so it'll be very helpful.
Great, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. Well, this is exciting. It really is, and are you folks worried about this?
I'm not worried about it.
I'm really glad to hear that.
No,
because it's a conversation that raises a lot of emotions for people sometimes, and it reminds me of any strongly held feelings and I think that as long as it proceeds in a way that allows for enough public voice, then
exactly.
that's
and that's exactly, yeah. So that's exactly how the New York State Department of State document, formulates the process, is that, you do it in a way that, accepts public input, considers public input, and is transparent, and it's an open meetings type thing. So great.
Where will where would you do those open meetings? And because now with COVID still in place.
We'll need to, I'm going to be the liaison, and we'll face that one when we come to it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they could be at the town hall or in person, or but
right.
For the foreseeable future, for the near future, I see continuous Zoom meetings. So
sure.
Great. Okay, we should move along, Evie.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. With that, we'll move along to my report, supervisors.
Can I make a suggestion that we
Yes.
change the agenda, because we have, Dan has been here the whole time and the judges are here, and maybe we can bump them up and then do everything else.
Great. Okay.
Before we do, they're all like, so I actually want to propose something. I wrote to Mark privately. We are over an hour behind our anticipated schedule. So we're on good track for an 11 p.m. meeting, and I simply don't have the bandwidth for that this week. I'd like to suggest, since we're meeting next week anyway, that we hear from the judges and hear from Dan, our guests, and then split the rest of the agenda, other than perhaps paying bills, into next week, since we're going to be convening anyway.
That's totally fine.
Cool.
Those are the essential things that we need to do.
Right.
We need to do. So with that, I will ask Dan for his report. Is he still with us? There he is.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, Dan.
I would have been happy to forego my report, but there's a couple of timely things here. So thanks for squeezing me in. First one, Mark or anybody else, have you heard a projection of how much money the town of Caroline might get from the federal stimulus bill that was passed today?
Yes, I heard from Senator Schumer at the Association of Towns that it could be 75%, capped at 75% of our budget. I assume that's our budgeted expenditures. So
I think this probably lines up with what you're saying. Then the projection I heard for the town of Caroline was $618,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
works for me.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch, but
yeah.
Right.
That comes out. And also in the presentation,
don't tell Bobby.
I'm sorry, what?
So don't tell Bobby.
Yeah.
In the presentation I heard, the explanation for how that money can be spent was this: to cover expenses associated with the response to or mitigation of the public health emergency and its negative environmental and economic impacts. So I'm not exactly sure how that will be interpreted. I just wanted to make sure you heard that number because it's an exciting number.
Really
the other
nice
thing that
Salamander Festival t-shirts is what I'm hearing.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I said Salamander Festival t-shirts is what I'm hearing.
That is environmental.
It's an environmental impact, just saying. Just kidding.
Okay. The other thing I want to mention is about the Reimagining Public Safety report that is out right now, because this is timely. So the governor put out an executive order, I believe it was last August, that every municipality that has a police force in the state must do a study of how to possibly change their police response with the idea to reduce racial inequities in policing. And so at the end of February, the county and the city put out a joint report, and we have to submit it to New York State by April 1st. So that's a very short timeline. And it's a really big topic, and I can only give you a little piece of this tonight. But the reason I want to bring it up too is that we are still accepting public comments. So individuals or the town itself could comment. There are 19 recommendations in the report. The first recommendation is probably the one you've heard the most about. It's the most controversial. It is the one to abolish the Ithaca Police Department and replace it with a new organization that would be made up of both armed officers and unarmed officers possibly think of them as social workers. That might be a good way to think about the second group they're describing. And there's two things I want to say about this. One is that I don't think, and many of us don't think, that it's actually the county is going to vote on that particular recommendation, because the county has no control over the Ithaca Police Department. That is an organization paid for and supervised by the city of Ithaca. I just wanted to say, though, if for whatever set of reasons we are forced into voting on that particular issue, that I would vote no, that I do not believe that abolishing the Ithaca Police Department is the right way to go, at least not with 5 weeks deliberation on it. The rest of the recommendations in the report are less controversial. Some of them still have some difficulties, though, for some people. So just in general, the other category, the categories to describe the other recommendations would be other ways to integrate more, I'm just going to call them social workers for lack of a better term, into police matters where appropriate. So obviously no one is going to send an unarmed social worker into a situation that may be dangerous, but there are plenty of things that police do that have to do with mental health and minor nuisance calls and taking reports and various things like that, that it's conceivable, it's reasonable that an unarmed person could do it. So that's one of the recommendations in there to explore that possibility. Another whole set of recommendations has to do with standardizing data collection. And I think this is really good. I don't think it's controversial. This will help us understand if how much of a problem there really is, and a way to measure it as time goes on to see if we're making a dent in it. There's some training recommendations, and there's some recommendations to revising the civil service rules. So as I said, it's a very big topic, and that really is just a tiny little piece of it, but I just wanted to let you know that this is taking up a lot of time and energy this month, and that we are accepting comments from anybody that wants to accept them, to submit them through the rest of this month. It's pretty easy to find the report through the county website. It's also very easy to find the form that you can submit comments. And that's my report tonight.
Great, thank you, Dan.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thanks for the windfall news.
Yeah.
Again, don't count your chickens before they hatch, but it's sounding good.
Yeah, I was reluctant to mention that one just because I really didn't know, it seemed too good to be true. And then what does that mean that we can spend it on COVID related impacts? I would have a hard time identifying $600,000 for the town of Caroline there. So
I can already imagine quite a few things. So I think we can put our heads together.
okay, sounds good.
I already did this at the state level for the last CARES initiative for the humanities. So there's a lot of things that we can think about.
Great.
A lot of ways to serve our needy population in the town of Caroline that we never otherwise would be able to do.
That's a good point.
Really exciting.
Yeah, very good point.
Broadband.
That's absolutely true, actually.
Yeah, of course.
You're damn straight.
I didn't hear that. I don't know.
Broadband, he said.
Oh, broadband, yeah.
Yeah, your internet connection must have fuzzed out on you, Mark.
Okay.
Great.
That's great.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like the justices are both here. So let's ask them to unmute. Gary and Susan.
Actually, I do have oh, it's okay. I'll ask them privately. I had a question for Dan, but.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Go for it.
Wait. Dan, if you're still there, I was remembering that maybe over the summer you shared, and I don't know how often you share this. I think it was not evictions, but foreclosures. Is that right? That you share that's like a county-wide report?
Yeah.
And are the same numbers available for evictions, or is it just foreclosures?
It's just foreclosures. So those are people that didn't pay their taxes.
Right. That's why you have that as a county. Okay.
Right. We don't deal directly with evictions.
Okay.
And the foreclosures, by the way, were also suspended, I believe, for the same amount of time as the eviction. So we have not foreclosed on any properties in the last year.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Yeah. Okay. I'm asking, there we go. Something happened. Susan, are you there?
I'm here.
And I am trying
Can you see
to
me?
get, yeah, I see you. So Gary, asking him to unmute.
He's not talking first.
Okay, there's, anyway.
We're
So,
ready?
yeah. Yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead, Susan, yeah.
So do you guys still have gas in your tank? Gary and I have been texting each other. We're kind of worried.
We've got gas
You
for
got
you.
gas? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
So I have this first part I was going to go through really fast anyway, and I'm going to go even faster. Just thank you for the improved cleaning. The officers are much cleaner than they've been, and also the maintenance, the shoveling is much better order of magnitude, and the new emergency door lock works, and that's great. And I can't tell you how many times I stood on those steps in the winter at 2 a.m. cursing Mark because I couldn't get that door to lock. So that's all good. And then I don't want to talk about this today, but just mention it. You know, we had this problem with a council person with a curtness and a tone of voice and anger. And the real thing that came out from our point of view, though, was an issue of a lack of truthfulness. And it really escalated. And so I'm really looking forward to working with Councilman Murray. And if we have these problems again, we have to find a way to talk through them and not just, I don't know, this is bad what happened last December. So we got an email that had the statement in it, all judges equally hardworking and dedicated. And that was an assumption and some thought process. And Gary and I just want to point out that that just made us laugh. I mean, if you think about the teachers in a school, they're not all equally hardworking and dedicated, and the farmers milking the cows. I mean, it's not true that all judges are equally hardworking and dedicated. I think I was a judge about 4 months when I started to become aware of a judge that people thought wasn't carrying that person's weight. And I don't know, you can't, that's not a good statement. So what I was going to bring to you today was this caseload examples to try to explain what caseload means, because I think there's a misunderstanding. So these are examples from our county. So judge number one, 8 years ago, had the highest caseload in the county. This judge is careless with speech and uses speech some people find offensive. This person has been admonished by the State Ethics Committee for public comments that were ist. So if you're valuing caseload, but if you're not valuing how the judge talks to people, then that's an imbalance in my mind. Judge 2 presided over a traffic bench trial and found the defendant not guilty. The police officer was angry and organized a boycott of that town. There were no traffic citations for 3 months. The town supervisor had to meet with the sheriff to end the boycott. I was told this by a deputy during my first year, likely as a warning or threat. So that deputy was communicating to me that if they're not happy with my decisions, they can cut us off with tickets. And so here's a judge who made a ruling, which that's the job of the judges. And then there was no caseload, zero caseload as a result of the ruling. And so again, you have to be careful about caseload. Judge 3 declines to get out of bed for off-hour arraignments, which is part of our job. Other judges, including Caroline, do the arrangements for this town. It's 2 hours of work, does not appear in our caseload. And again, here's a judge that declines to do arraignments in an adjoining town, and so we have to pick up the slack. Judge 4 was known for routine bail, always sets bail, which causes citizens with perilous finances to spend time in jail and sometimes lose jobs. This judge also is missing at probation training, drug court training, mental health court training. This judge sentences many to jail without considering alternation incarcerations. This judge likely has a higher caseload than we do. Is this a good judge or a bad judge? Judge 5 and 6. Judge 5 sets his or her court time at 8 a.m. and was rude to police officers. Consequently, this judge had almost no traffic tickets or criminal referrals. The co-judge carried 95% of the caseload for that town. So here we have two judges in one town with very different caseloads, which in this case, I think could be tracked to the behavior of one of the judges. Judge 7 does not accept partial payment on fines. The defendants with low incomes are expected to save every month until they have the full amount. When emergencies arise, the defendants dip into their court jar and then are unable to save the full amount. Eventually, this judge issues a bench warrant, they're arrested, they set bail, and then the complications, the financial complications grow. Judge 8, in conversations at magistrates meeting, this judge is quick to term poor defendants as lazy and foolish. In one conversation with this judge, I said, it's human nature to hope things work out. When a defendants fall behind in payments, and I was going to end with, they probably was hoping something would happen, but this judge cut me off and ended my sentence because they spent the money on drugs. And so these are all true in our county since I've become a judge. And I don't know, do you know which one is from Caroline Court? Because one is. The judge who had an 8 a.m. court time and rude to police officers, that was Phoenix, and Judge Paul, what's his last name?
No.
Yeah. So I'm concerned because they've got this just astronomical focus on caseload. And when I was interviewed by my political party, which, has nothing to do with your town board, for their endorsement to run, I was asked questions about the socioeconomic issues about bail and alternatives to incarceration, considerations of poverty. But the town board has been communicating that the only issue in your mind is caseload, which, by the way, brings money to the town. So you're saying quantity over quality. And Judge Reibold and I both feel pressure from you because of your focus. And I'm trying to explain to you, and there's been emails already. Councilperson Snow was saying that you've got to have a barn and you've got to have a vet and you've got to work the cows. Doesn't matter if you have 10 or 100. We've said that we don't generate caseload. We can't go rustle up. I mean, I tell my friends, drive past really fast with an open beer. Let's see what happens. But we don't generate caseload. And so we're not responsible for it. And so my question, the reason I schedule this meeting is because I'm feeling that you guys care about quantity and not quality. And that's what you're communicating to me. So Judge Reinbold has some things. I don't know if you want to keep going. I also have something I was going to email to you now because I didn't want you to read it while I was talking. Again, it's just the list of stuff we do. And I just, our work, we earned below living wage, and our work has only grown for the last 3 years. And you might think last year we didn't do much, but that's just not true. We did more last year. 2020 was a huge year for us. And the only guy that showed up in the court to ask how we're doing was Councilperson Snow. No one else asked how it was going, how the pressure was, how we were handling the pressure, what's happening with evictions. There's a lot going on. And we just got this one piston, caseload. So I'm just kind of concerned that you don't understand our job. Judge Reinbold?
Well, I concur. I tried to make myself clear during the discussions of the budget that I thought that there were severe ethical problems with linking the operations of the court to our compensation. I don't think that's acceptable. In fact, in the judge's manual, it says that it is not permissible to link our compensation to the operations of the court. It's just wrong-headed. I never found out, how this data was to be used, even though I asked several times. I think it's wrong-headed. It has no, not to mention that, reducing the concept of what the court does to a mechanical assembly line on a piecework basis. It degrades the court, it degrades the judges, and you can't look at defendants as cases. They're not cases. They're individuals with rights that need to be protected. And they should be treated with dignity, and every one of them is individual. To assume that a case is a case, and we have a target of 300 cases this month, I just find it unacceptable. I echo Judge Barr's concern that you don't understand what we do.
So
And
one
and
example
quite frankly, I don't think you value what we do.
well, one example of a change is during the recent presidential administration, the effect of being a court for someone who is a non-citizen, all of a sudden that skyrocketed and it changed everything. And so people might not even know they're not a citizen, and again, I'm at this magistrates meeting in the Adirondacks, and they're talking about how we have to consider the full impact of a guilty plea to a misdemeanor for someone who's a non-citizen when the federal climate has changed so greatly. And again, a judge said, well, but they're all illegal, so what do we care? And I'm thinking, no, these are Cornell grad students from Iran, right? That's what we're talking about. So do you care about that? Because you don't communicate that care. You care that we're putting in extra hours to handle cases of people who have danger if they have to plead guilty to one charge. So the prosecution offers us a different charge that's not on this hot list. And so we're trying to take care of that individual, and it takes more time. But if we're just talking about quantity, we should just bang that gavel and say, boom, boom, boom.
Not to mention the fact that when you use I've said this before, this is an industrial model to incentivize employees. The faster you work, the more you'll make. And I just don't think that lends itself to the kind of concern that Judge Barr is talking about. I think it's antithetical to that. The only thing I can use, I can give you a couple of examples of the compensation side. When a judge is called, if someone resigns in a town court and the new judge is appointed to hold that bench until a new judge can be appointed.
So somebody from out of town.
Yeah, it comes in from out of town. You'll get $250 a day to sit on that bench. Just to give you a relative term. I make about $30 a day for the days that I sit on the bench. The entire concept that this town has about the value of the judges reflects the realities of 1950, when the troopers brought the prisoner to your house and you did the arraignment there. You weren't called in the middle of the night to do an arraignment because there's only one trooper on the road for the whole county and they can't hold him. He's got to go to jail. I mean, there's just aspects of this, things that you give up. I have very limited rights to free speech. I can't comment on this, I can't comment on that because I might impugn what's the phrase? Judge Barr, do you remember what the phrase is? Damage the image of the court or something like that. Can't comment on politics, can't comment on current events.
Impugn the dignity of your position.
There you go. The dignity, it's the dignity thing, yeah. I just reek of dignity, don't I? But I have to. I certainly have to when I put that robe on. The restrictions that we have to put up with, the sacrifices that we have to make. We face, you know, I've said this before, we risk our lives. You may poo-poo that, but you know, talk to that judge I can't remember, Maryland, was it? Where they could, you know, the guy, she made a decision that a guy didn't like, so he came to her house and he couldn't find her, so he murdered her son and husband.
And he actually had a map.
These are the times we live in.
He had a map to get to his
dismissed, and to be dismissed as the lowest paid judge, what we've earned is the lowest paid status in the county. That just doesn't seem right.
So, and I'm also, it takes about 4 years to make a judge. And when I was at a class with troopers, I asked one of the sergeants how long it takes to make a trooper. And he said, yeah, 4 years. It's a lot. When you practice law, you pick one section of it. So I have a cousin who does real estate law and another cousin who does patent law. It's just, you do one thing, but we actually have to have expertise in huge, broad areas.
Yeah.
And we have to keep up, and it's been nuts. Last year was crazy. The last 3 years. And I was on the phone with Josh Shapiro on Monday, and he told me, yep, judge are dropping like flies. He's getting resignations all the time because the workload's gone so far. And just older judges don't want to learn. It's the whole tenant landlord thing. It's crazy. And
there's a modification every week.
Yeah.
In what's permissible and what's not, in a wide variety, not just the summary hearings, but in a wide variety of things that we have to cover. We have a teleconference every week, and which takes our time. And then of course we have to actually read the things the teleconference was talking about, the executive orders and the modifications from a supervising judge. Because we have to be ready to deal with whatever comes in front of us. And again, we don't choose those. We don't choose the cases. We don't choose the number of cases. It's what the troopers bring us.
And because we live in Caroline, we've got 2 binders at the bench because we're concerned that someone's going to walk in and, you know, read the Constitution and question the law and what right do you have to do that? And we have all the laws, everything that Cuomo's done in the last 12 months. It's right there. So we can open it up and say, well, the Executive Order 202.86, that's what gives us the authority to do this.
Oh, I don't know. Did you want to say something, Tim? Or I would be happy to try to clarify from my perspective.
I mean, I was just going to say that that I believe that this conversation, we tried to have this conversation a year ago, and the way that it began was asking us to consider the comparative salaries in the county. And so the board, from my point of view, was simply trying to do the best it could to consider context for how you would determine comparative salaries across the county, which was how it was presented to us. So I'm sorry, I apologize if you felt that was undervaluing, and it certainly wasn't the only thing that we were trying to assess. But I think it would be helpful if we could have an understanding of trust here. I mean, we also are all elected officials. And I think, frankly, if we compared our salaries to that of the local towns, I think we'll all be in similar boats. That's not the issue. But I hope that we can maybe somehow start up again having a better conversation without this kind of, I mean, I think it's fair. I would like to say is the new liaison to the court that I think we all value what you do, and we appreciate what you do. But we were asked to consider a comparative situation, and we just were trying to honestly do that. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Tim. I couldn't have said it better. So
I'd like to weigh in too. Yeah. So we've talked about this before, and Gary, you and I have had some conversations certainly to try and understand it. And I think Tim's accurate in that we're struggling to compare in some cases what might not be apples and apples. And Susan, I hear you clearly when you say that. So my question is simply this, and I'm not looking for an answer tonight. As we continue to grapple, how do we compensate fairly? And I think we have an interest in equity, and that came out in our budget discussions this past cycle. What would help me is guidance on what are the things that are used. I get it. We're not, you're right. Units of justice, as you've sometimes phrased it, isn't the right measurement, obviously. So how do you determine it, right? Because it is a unique thing.
Gary and I were talking about that, and we were going to get ready for next month. There are a lot of people we have to please all the time. The comptroller's watching us, 6th is watching us, Albany is watching. So we were going to gather all of that stuff.
Okay.
I just really wanted to understand that someone could have a big caseload, but you could actually be quite unhappy with what's going on in the courtroom.
Sure.
My quick reaction to that is that although I do not claim to have the status of a lawyer, because they have to train for everything. I'll never hear torts, I'll never hear contracts. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'll never hear. But for the things that we hear, there is an expectation on the part of our judges, the supervising judges, that we will be as competent as a lawyer for those things that we have to deal with. And they are numerous. CDC law, vehicle law, criminal law, civil law. So lawyers are paid conceptually for what they have to know in order to make competent representation. Judges should be paid for what they have to know to protect the rights of the people before them and come to an equitable conclusion based on the facts and the law.
Gary, our lawyer is paid for the work he does. Our town attorney is paid for the work he does on a contractual basis.
That's right, at an hourly price set based on the expertise that he has acquired over the years.
Exactly.
It is still based on expertise. We are not hourly workers. I'm not going to accept that. And we're not peace workers.
But we are earning less than a living wage right now.
Can I jump in? I'm Catherine. I'm the newest board member. So I wanted to, introduce myself because I don't think we've been formally introduced. I'm a little bit dismayed that this is our introduction because this feels a little heated and I am unaware of the history here. So to be transparent, just to share, this is now my intro, a new person. For me, as a new person, I guess I would offer curiosity around what the process is. I would welcome hearing anything from you directly. And obviously, my fellow board members are familiar with this, and I'm not. So I just would welcome hearing really what the substance is of this. I'm hearing a lot of emotion, but I'm not really hearing anything specific. So I don't know what your salary is. I assume that's public record because you're a public servant. I can look that up. I don't know how it compares to other municipalities. I'm being very transparent. I am not familiar with the process. But it would help me because I hear that there's a lot of solicitation from you around trust and respect and transparency and process, and I appreciate those things too, but I haven't met you yet, so we're starting now. So I guess that's my request is that we don't need to take the time now to do that, but I'm new and I'd like to hear what you're saying, and I'm happy to talk about it with the rest of the board. And from a total outsider's perspective, I guess I would just offer that the tone of this is pretty distressing to me.
Well, there was something that happened and the person's gone and it really upset us, And I mean, to say something that's not true is very upsetting. And so we're just, I don't know, I started with saying, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Let's talk better.
I agree. Very much so.
Anyway, well, that's all we wanted to do. I really wanted to make this to get you to see that if you only think about caseload, you might have a judge you don't like sitting on the bench doing stuff. And that, so what is it you care about? What are we trying to do? Do you want us to be thoughtful and slow and careful? Do you want us to protect the poor and protect immigrants? These are all things that we take very seriously.
I hear you, Susan, but I just want to reiterate, we've never said we only want to look at caseload. But we do want to look at caseload.
On the other hand, I was told that you couldn't proceed without it.
Well,
So
we
that
wanted.
seems to me that makes it a pretty core issue. For
Well,
the
as Tim said, Gary, we were trying to do a careful comparative analysis. And in order to do that, and as Susan said, you don't generate caseload.
Right.
Caseload is what comes to you. It's so we saw that as a reasonable index of your workload. And but we did not, and I understand there are a lot of responsibilities that go with the job. All of us have responsibilities that go with our jobs, and I respect that. So, but I just think that it is, to me, it does seem, I like to be a logical person, and it seems logical to me to if we're thinking about compensation, that it should be related to the enormity of the job.
Right.
The enormity of the job.
We're going to make a list of the people that we're responsible to, and if we're meeting the metrics that they set. I think that's a good way to look at it. Because, for example, this one judge who, was admonished by the ethics committee, is that a good judge or a bad judge? I mean, there's other ways to look at it.
And I have to go back to the Justice Court Manual, the section on compensation, which says performance may not be linked to the amount of revenue the court generates or other factors related to the operation of the justice court.
And that's not what we're asking for.
You don't think case count linking compensation to case count is linking
Gary, I will
compensation
show
to the operation of the court?
I think it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think we should stop. We wanted to explain why, in our minds, someone could have a high case count and still.
I understand there can be those peculiarities. I understand that. And so, we would want to be sensitive to that. But, I just think it's a reasonable request.
Well, we're going to create what we think is a reasonable way to look at it. We'll get it to you. That's our next thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. You're right, it's late. So thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. So we look forward to what you're going to provide us. So.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody for the discussion. And so I'm moving on with the accelerated agenda for tonight. I'll offer a resolution for the transfer resolution that I offered of $1,000 from contingency to a 14.405 Creeks Engineering for the Ecruz Road project that was done by TG Miller. No. Did somebody second that transfer for me?
They did not, but I will.
Thanks, John. Any further discussion? Do you understand what I'm doing, Catherine? Okay, great. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. So I had to do that before we could actually pay the bill, so I didn't draw a negative balance in one line. So I'll offer resolution to pay the vouchers in the amounts 62,603.73 for general, 73,640.42 for highway, 25,22.72 for street light. I will add the addendum that I believe Jesse added a voucher for Thaler and Thaler today, so that'll change the A fund by that amount. And we'll be checking on a NYSEG invoice that Cal noticed that might be a double payment, so we will iron that out. But anyway, I'll offer resolution to pay the town bills.
Seconded.
Great, thanks, Cal. Any further discussion? Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And if there are no objections, I would like to approve the minutes of March 2nd, unless you need to feel the need to wait. I found them very good.
I'll second it.
Second.
Great. So I'm actually at Jesse's recommendation, and the minutes do not require a vote or a resolution. So I will just say that the minutes are hereby approved by the town board.
Yeah, good.
So great, thank you. And I had originally considered, it's 10 o'clock right now, I had originally considered going into executive session to discuss the zoning commission interviews. Would people be entertained a 10-minute executive session to do that?
I would like to do that.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think we could do it while it's fresh, otherwise
Okay.
we're done.
So with that, I'll offer a resolution for the town board to enter executive session to discuss personnel appointments to the zoning commission.
Second.
Seconded by Catherine. All in favor?
Aye.
And so we'll now enter executive session. So
Night, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.